This has got to be the most common question I get for all you vape pod users out there. You say this, you say, hey, why am I getting a dry hit off my vape pod? Why do I burn out my vape pod immediately when I pick it up and vape it? Here's the deal, let me show you. When you go to fill up your vape pod, okay, this is top fill. This is the one I prefer. Top fill is the way to go, let me explain why. Because when you pull the cap off, okay, you're right over the coil. So when you go to first fill this up, do a couple primer drops in there. Pop a couple primer drops in there, okay? And by doing this, you are immediately saturating that coil in there. It's getting saturated with juice. And then when you go to fill that mother chucker up, once you have her full, I don't know if you guys can see that, but the cotton is saturated. Not because I filled her up, but because I did primer drops in there. So if you're using a pod, put those primer drops in there first before you fill her up. Or after, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you do those primer drops in there. Get that coil saturated. That way, when you pop that cap back on there, man, you can go hit it right away. You don't have to sit and wait for 5 minutes, okay? By doing those primer drops, you are immediately saturating that coil, okay? And by doing that, it won't ever give you a dry hit. You won't burn the coil head out accidentally. That's the main thing. People are not putting primer drops in there and they're going to vape it right after they fill it up and they burn the coil out. So do the primer drops. Now, if you have a pod like this one right here that does not have top fill, it's going to be a challenge to pop those primer drops in there because look at that little itty bitty hole. I would recommend if you're using a pod that does not have top fill, use 50-50 juice. Fill her up, wait a few minutes, it'll saturate and you won't get a dry hit unless you're using a pod with adjustable wattage and you're taking the wattage way up above the recommended, then yeah, you're gonna burn out the pod. You're gonna burn out the coil. So if you have a top fill pod, do the primer drops. You'll be rocking and rolling, you won't ever get a dry hit first hit, okay? And if you're using a pod, again, that does not have top fill, use thinner juice. Wait, be patient. Patience is a virtue. Hope that helps, guys. I'm Rip Chippers, and you know the deal. Smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now. Love you guys.